Welcome to Ragnorok! The Tournament of Fates has now begun. In the blue corner, we have the Immortal Ones, the Divine, the Creator of Worlds, Torturer of Souls, the Gods! And in the red corner, we have... the humans. Who will win the Tournament of Fate? Will humanity be able to survive another 1,000 years? Find out right now. And let's get ready to rock.
Yeah, that's actually owned by Michael Buffer. So you can't use it.
Oh, for God's sakes. We're talking about Records of Ragnarok. You really ruined that for me, you know that? I got back into reading manga again, and I started this by reading the most bonkers but beautifully done battle manga, Records of Ragnarok. I wasn't going to talk about manga yet, as I wanted to get a bit more balls deep into it before I shared my excitement with you. Wow, that came across way too sexual. Not intended. But I kept asking people to read it, because it is bloody grand, and no one's read it yet. So I decided to make a video to convince you all to read it. Before we move on, I kinda need to fix something. There's something not quite right. That's more like it. Kinda suits what I'm talking about a bit better, doesn't it? Record of Ragnarok. Wow, that's a hard one to say. Record of Ragnarok follows a council of gods as they meet up for their 1,000-year meeting. And I do mean gods. You've got the Greek gods, the Norse gods, the Hindu gods. They're all here. So expect this to be about taking minutes, going over the last 1,000 years financials, the projections for next year. Nah, just kidding. They're here to decide if us humans are worthy to live another 1,000 years.
The answer is no, because we're the worst.
But a Valkyrie steps in, called Broomhilda, to offer a counter. Why not let humanity have a shot, one last shot, at worthiness? In a 1-on-1 tournament. This sounds so familiar. I wonder who's done something like this before. Nothing seems to come to mind. What? Oh, you're expecting more story? Nope, that's it. Sorry, I didn't say it was going to be deep or inspiring storytelling. But did I ever say I was a deep guy? You don't pick up Records of Ragnarok for the story anyway. You pick up for the fact that it's over the top and a bit mental. Every god and human that's involved gets their own new backstories, completely reimagined from the myths. And with that, they get themselves some new mental superpowers. It basically takes each god, makes them more badass than they already are, and grabs every human and makes them more badass. It's actually brilliant. My favourite example of this is Adam. You know Adam, the guy that hung about in the garden. Wasn't he a fan of clothes? He's introduced by rocking that famous pose from that painting on some guy's ceiling. You know the one. Which brings just enough comedy to offset the fact that it's a pretty serious subject that we're getting into. You know, us getting bamfed out of existence. He gets such a cool fucking superpower as well. So, Adam has been made in God's image, right? So that means he's a copy of God. He becomes a Kakashi of this world, yeah? Get my reference? Good. He can copy every god's superpower, sees it once, can copy it, and even better, use it to counter them. Now, if that's not badass, I don't know what is. These traits, and reimagined backstories and superpowers, are for absolutely everybody as well, and I am actually living for it. I sit in anticipation waiting for each fight, because we know we're going to get a new superpower. And we know it's going to be even more bombastic than the one before. It gives me such a vibe of Rock Lee. You know the scene.
Ah, that is better. Now I will be able to move freely.
Come on, you really think you'll be able to get through Gaara's defenses just by dropping a couple of pounds of weight?
You may come for the powers, but you stay for the fights. Each fight ramps up the intensity as it progresses. You can't help but get hyped to see the next panel, to see what's going to happen. But you don't get lost in them. Even though the fights are really mental and there's a lot going on, they're still pretty decent to follow, especially for a battle manga who have a horrible habit of being motion blur, motion blur, motion blur, mad lines so you can't see anything. It does pretty good. Getting to see the fighters use strategy and outsmarting their opponents is pretty fun and a breath of fresh air, instead of having the usual, I have now got some new superpowers to defeat you. They do actually have those moments as well. But the good outweighs the cliche in this one. You don't get fatigued by the fights either. They take enough of a break in between fights to let you breathe, which is good. I'm all for the hypeness of it, but I need a moment to breathe. It even drops some backstory within the fight. I know, don't hate me. I know that that's a complete no-go and I shouldn't be defending it because we're all here to watch the fights. But the backstories are actually really interesting, which kinda makes you want to find out what's going on. They reimagined their characters in very unique ways, and most of the time pretty cool. Take Poseidon, god of the sea, Zeus's brother, but also a god slayer. And he's even feared amongst the other gods. We get to see him kill the 13th god of Olympus. And the reason for this is because he wasn't acting godly enough. Poseidon looks down on anyone who's not godly. Humans are so beneath him that he wouldn't even look at Kojiro Sakai in the eye when they were fighting. Oh fuck, Kojiro's backstory is so good actually. I want to tell you, but I shouldn't tell you because you should read it. I don't know what to do. Moving on, the fights are complemented by this beautiful, yet a little bit different manga art style done by, I'm not even going to attempt their name, so there you go. They weren't afraid to get kind of ugly with it when needed. And I know ugly might put you off, but for me, it was wonderful. It shows off so much emotion in each panel when it has these moments. We get a wee window into their mindset, who they are as a person. Look at this moment with Lubu. Just by the way it's drawn, we know he's an absolute nutter. And I'm going to admit something to you. This is hard for me, I'm about to admit something. This manga actually made me like Lubu. For those who don't know, I don't like Lubu. He's a bit of an asshole. He betrayed his dad for a horse, then he betrayed his new dad for a girl. Then he goes on to portray the best boy Liu Bei for reasons? I don't know.
Shame on you.
Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, artwork is banging. I don't want to say much more about what goes on in this because it really needs to be experienced. But what I will say is this manga had my heart pounding in the fights. It never gives away who's going to win and even twists my expectations at times. My goodness, I even had a teary moment in this. I would say, instead of giving you chapters to read up to, give the first 3 fights a go. Each fight plays out very differently from each other, so at the very minimum, you might just be curious enough to see what the next fight holds. So go, give it a read. Tell me what you think. And as always, thanks for watching. Till next time.